Let's draw a graph of this. Okay? I've said this before, I'll say it again. It's true, that, this old picture tells 1,000 words is worth 1,000 words. Economists think that if we graph these things, we look at the graph, we can instantly see what's going on a lot of the times when it would take a half hour to explain it. We see the graph, we just go, oh, okay, got it. All right, we draw this supply and demand curve, and I'm stalling a little bit because I know how much you want to copy things. You don't have to copy the two superhero guys. Across the x-axis, the horizontal axis, we have the quantity of the good. Up the vertical axis, we have the price of the good, up the y-axis. Now, technically, if you're a real math whizzy person, that's backwards. Okay? Supply and demand, or any graph, usually has some measure of cause and effect in it. And when we have cause and effect, we normally put cause on the x-axis and effect on the y-axis. Economists don't do that. We always put the money thing or almost always put the money thing on the y-axis. Okay? It's tradition. It might make no sense, but you don't decide you're going to go buy 10 and then go look at the price. You look at the price, and that tells you you're going to buy 10. Right? Prices help us make these decisions. Prices are the information, part of the information that we use to make decisions. Okay? So here we have this graph. The red line, the demand curve, that's the D, is the demand curve. It's downward sloping. Again, why is it downward sloping? It's downward sloping because of the law of demand. There's this inverse relationship. Consumers like low prices. And the lower the price gets, the more we want to buy. Okay? So the demand curve is downward sloping. And here in this case, at a price of 100, we want to buy 10. At a price less than 100, we'll buy more than 10. Price more than 100, we want to buy less than 10. Yes? Yeah. So remember, this is about price and quantity. We also have some terminology. Demand means the whole curve. So when an economist says, hey, demand is changing, that means that curve is moving, that it's not sitting where it is. That curve is out here somewhere, or down in here somewhere, or it's, more straight up and down or something. When we say there's a change in demand, we mean the whole curve has changed. We have this phrase, quantity demanded. Quantity demanded is this point at this price. So at the price of 100 on this curve, the quantity demanded is 10. Okay? At a price lower than 100 on this curve, the quantity demanded will be greater than 10. Quantity demanded means we're moving along the curve. So if we're here and we end up here, that's a change in quantity demanded. If we end up here, that's a change in quantity demanded. If the whole curve moves and we end up here somewhere, that's a change in demand. Got that? I certainly hope so. All right. Demand is about marginal benefit. It's about the additional benefit I get from having one more of something. And again, it's about me being willing and able. So I've been at Ala Moana many times. However, I've never stopped in at Rip and Curl and bought surf stuff, because I'd hate to think what I would look like if I was trying to surf. Okay? So I'm able to buy a lot of stuff in that shop. I'm not terribly willing. Okay? I've never been in the mall at the bottom half of the left, but if I ever was there, I'd be perfectly happy to walk in the Starbucks and buy my beverage. I'm both willing and able. So there's, again, these two components. I have to be willing to buy things. I have to be able to buy them before I have a demand for them. I do not have a demand for a Lamborghini. I'm willing, not able. Okay? Remember that changes in the curve, and I just said this a second ago, and I'll say it again. Changes in the curve change demand. Changes in the price change the quantity demanded. So if Rip and Curl there lowers the price of Surfy stuff, they would change the quantity demanded. If, on the other hand, everybody on the planet decides they want to be a surfer, that to be cool you have to be a surfer, well then that's going to shift demand, right? All the Kardashians decide that they're giving up their TV shows and they're going surfing. Well, all of a sudden, lots of people would decide to go surfing, and we would have a change in demand. All right, so what shifts demand? What changes demand? So there's 4 basic categories. The first of those is prices of related goods. We have goods that are called substitutes and complements, and we'll have slides on those here in a second, and we'll talk about them. But clearly, peanut butter and jelly are related. Gasoline and cars are related. Right? Yeah. And related to the price of peanut butter today is the price of peanut butter in the future. If we think that, price of peanut butter is going to go way up, that there's some newspaper article we read that, there's a peanut shortage and the price of peanut, we might run out of the grocery store and buy a bunch of peanut butter now because we think the price is going to go up. Okay? Number 2, our income. Clearly, we tend to buy more stuff when we have higher income. Okay? Those people who don't buy less stuff if they have less income just create problems for themselves, yes? And related to that is our expected future income. You need a new car, but you're about to start a new higher paying job in a couple months. Probably, if you're smart, you're going to hang on and wait until your income goes up before you go decide what car you're going to buy, because you're going to want to buy maybe a nicer car when your income goes up, and so you wait. Okay? Number 3, the number of consumers, the number of customers. That should make obvious sense to you. Yes, we hope. And then what we call tastes. What people like and don't like changes over time. Yes. College students used to go have accounts on something called MySpace. I doubt that any of you who are listening to this have a MySpace account, because I don't even think you can have one anymore. Fox, the brilliant folks at Fox, bought MySpace for $675 million and sold it for $35 million. Okay? Because people's tastes change. Right? I'm sure that your kids will think you are ridiculous that you are on Instagram or TikTok right? And there'll be something new and different and exciting that they do. Okay? Demand shifters are all about the consumer, all about utility. So the things that directly affect the consumer are going to be in demand. The things that directly affect the business are going to be in supply, and that's how we get the separation between the 2 curves. Okay? So in your mind, when there's ever a problem that you come across and you're saying, hey, what's the answer to this problem? And we do those in class, right? What happens when this happens? Well, ask yourself, is it the consumer that has to respond to that or the business? Now, the business may respond after the consumer responds. But this change here is going to affect consumers, right? So, pandemic, people's income goes down. They're going to eat less at the restaurants. Restaurants then have to adjust. But the first thing that's going to happen, the income going down, is going to affect our interest in eating at restaurants. Then our change in our restaurant behavior can affect the business, maybe. Okay. So some goods are substitutes. Substitutes are goods that can substitute for each other, can replace each other. So Taco Bell, Chipotle, Del Taco, Cafe Rio, all substitutes, right? And you get tacos and burritos and all that stuff there. Some of them are better substitutes or different substitutes, and there are others, but they're substitutes. All right. So let's suppose that Taco Bell raises their price. So if the price of substitute X rises, so Taco Bell raises their prices, what's going to happen to the demand for Cafe Rio, Del Taco, and Chipotle? Going to go up? Yeah, I think so too. So if the price of substitute X rises, if the price of Taco Bell rises, the demand for good Y rises. That's how I know something is a substitute. If the price of one goes up, the demand for the other goes up. If United Airlines raises their fares, people will switch over and fly Southwest. If one gas station raises the price of gas, people will go across the street and buy cheaper gas. Okay? Got that? Hopefully. All right. Complements. Complements are things that go together, that you buy together. Peanut butter and jelly are complements. A plane ticket to Hawaii and a hotel room in Hawaii are complements. Usually you don't fly to Hawaii and not stay in a hotel, or you don't rent a room in on Waikiki if you don't have an airline ticket to get to Hawaii. Okay? Now, the price of complement X rises. So if the price of peanut butter goes way up, what's that going to do to your demand for jelly? Price of peanut butter goes way up. Price of peanut butter, way up. What's it going to do to your demand for jelly? Well, you're probably going to buy less jelly. If the price of peanut butter has gone up, you're going to buy less peanut butter, and therefore also you're going to buy less jelly. Yes? Yes. So if the price of a complement X rises, the demand for good Y falls. If airline tickets to Hawaii go up, demand for hotel rooms in Hawaii will go down. If the price of peanut butter goes up, demand for jelly will go down. If the price of gas goes up, the demand for cars that use a lot of gas goes down. Okay? Complements. Income. So some goods are what we call normal goods. And normal goods are ones we buy more of as our income goes up. So as our income rises, we're going to buy more Ferraris. As our income rises, we go out to eat more. Okay? Those are normal goods. But some goods are what we call inferior goods. Inferior goods are goods we buy less of as our income rises. That does not mean that they're bad. Really, economists should have come up with a better word than inferior good. A car like a Civic can be a really nice car. Nothing wrong with it. But usually, when you go win the lottery, your first thought isn't, I'm going to go buy a Civic. So you have lower entry-level cars, right? Cars that, a lot of people buy as their first car. Those cars are not necessarily bad cars, but they're cars we buy less of as our income goes up. So when you get that $100,000 job, that $200,000 job, you're going to switch and you're going to buy a different vehicle probably. And it's not going to be a Civic. Okay? Now, some products are not that high quality that are inferior goods. So, boxed mac and cheese with the powdered cheese stuff. When you get rich, you have the chauffeur, the chef or whatever, get you real mac and cheese. Right? I doubt that there are many billionaires sending their staff out to get them a box of mac and cheese. Okay? So inferior goods are just things that we buy less of as our income rises. The consumer part, this should be really easy, right? When Las Vegas had 500,000 people in compared to when it has 2 million people today, we just buy more stuff, right? The more consumers there are, the more stuff. Yeah, that should be easy. And then tastes. Okay? I put this box up here on purpose because it's one of the cool examples in my theory of life. And it's the example of the pet rock. One Christmas, some brilliant person got this idea that they would make these boxes. You notice there's air holes in the box for your rock, so your rock can breathe. And inside this box, there are two things. There's a rock and there's an instruction manual. And the instruction manual tells you, for example, how to teach your rock to do tricks like play dead. Yeah. Well, that Christmas, millions of these things got sold, and the fool that came up with this pet rock idea made a lot of money. But you don't really see those in the stores these days, do you? Okay? If you look at pictures of UNLV when it first started, all of the male students are wearing neckties. They're wearing white shirts. All of them are wearing white shirts, and they're all wearing neckties with their white shirt. You don't see a lot of that at UNLV currently. Okay? If you look at the original UNLV basketball teams, back when we had a basketball team, the shorts that those guys wore barely covered their behind. Really high shorts, and then they wore knee socks that came up to their knees. If you walked into your local high school dressed like that for tryouts, they would laugh you out before you ever tried out. Okay? What we do and what we wear and what we like and what we buy changes dramatically over time, and those are tastes. We call that taste or preferences. Okay? It's difficult for economists to deal with tastes and preferences so much, and marketing people have all kinds of theories about that, which is why people who can't hack it as economists go become marketing professors. And why people who can't handle it as econ students go become marketing students. But tastes are things that are hard to quantify sometimes. Hard to figure out why people like something today and don't like it tomorrow and didn't like it a month ago and blah, blah. Okay? All right. Ooh, draw. You want to draw this graph, don't you? I know. This is a cool graph. This we would call a family of demand curves. Okay? So we have a D1, a D2, and a D3. And the question is, which one is the highest demand? Well, let's look at the price. Let's look at the green line. See the green line? That's a price. Okay? Let's look at that price. So look at A. Here's the price. At that price at A, that's our quantity demanded. At B, that's the quantity demanded. And at C, that's the quantity demanded. Because C has the highest quantity demanded, D3 is the highest demand curve. Demand increases as it moves to the right. So as we move to the right, demand is increasing. Okay? And remember, demand means the whole curve is moving. So how do I get, if I'm at A, how do I get to B or C? Well, the price of a substitute could go down. So if this is supply and demand for Southwest Airlines, as United raises their fares and we don't, our demand will increase. Yes? If this is the demand curve, these curves are for jelly, as the price of peanut butter goes down, we're going to sell more jelly. Okay? Because they're complements. If peanut butter is a normal good, as people's income rises, we buy more peanut butter. If ramen noodles are an inferior good, as people's income falls, will move from A to B to C, and people will buy more ramen noodles because they have less income. Okay? No? The more consumers we have, if we get more consumers, we'll go from A to B to C. And if the tastes of whatever this is improve, we'll go from A to B to C. Now, how do I get from A to E? A to E. Well, that's a change in the quantity demanded. Notice, I'm staying on the same demand curve, A to E, right? So that's a change in quantity demanded. So if this graph is for peanut butter, A to E means the price of peanut butter went down. If this is the graph for Southwest Airlines, A to E means that Southwest lowered their fares. A to B would mean United raises their fares, actually. A to E means that Southwest lowers its fares. Okay, supply. Supply is also about willing. Okay? A business has to be willing to produce something. And why would I be willing to produce something if I'm a business? Because I want to make money. 2, the business has to be able to produce it. There are businesses that would love to sell you a trip to Mars. We don't know. Yeah, we're not going to sell you that. We're not able. And then again, just like before, we have the whole given price thing. The businesses might not be willing to produce something at 10 cents a piece, but at $5 a piece, they're willing to produce it. If Congress passes a law and says tacos are 20 cents a piece, some stores are going to stop. Chipotle is not going to sell tacos for 20 cents a piece. Okay? On the other hand, if Congress passes a law and said all tacos are $20 a piece, then lots of people will want to sell tacos. Okay. Quantity supplied, the amount of a good that a firm is willing and able to supply at a given price. So you go to the store during the pandemic, there was no yeast. People started doing the whole sourdough, make your own yeast at home thing because you go to the store and you couldn't buy yeast. They were out of yeast. It's not that the firm wasn't willing to supply the yeast, it's they have to grow it, and they weren't able to provide enough yeast to keep the store shelves stocked with yeast. Same with toilet paper for a while. They were willing to provide all the toilet paper people wanted to buy, but you got to make the toilet paper, and they weren't able to supply enough at the given price, right? So how much is the quantity supply is the amount the firm is both willing and able to supply at the given price, right? Willing and able. And we have the law of supply. The law of supply says, ceteris paribus, all things being equal, the higher the price, the greater is the quantity supplied. Again, businesses are in business to turn a profit. They want to make money. The higher the price, the more money they make on what they sell. So businesses want high prices. And you can see, hopefully, how this is going to work out. Consumers want low prices. Businesses want high prices. We're going to sing a Mary Morris song and meet in the middle. Why? It's all about what? It's all about profits. Businesses want to make profits. Not the little dude sitting naked up on top of the mountain. Money. Profits. Okay? So again, we can draw a graph, price on the vertical axis, quantity on the horizontal, right? Q is X, P is Y. We draw a supply curve, an S that goes up, and it goes up again because businesses prefer higher prices. They make more money when prices are high. They want to sell more when prices are high. So again, this is about price and quantity. When we talk about supply, we're talking about the whole curve. When we're talking about quantity supplied, we're talking about a point at a price. So, again, MBMC price supply is marginal cost. So, again, before we do a graph that had an MB and an MC on it, supply is marginal cost, and it's all about both willing and able. Okay? The whole curve shifts, that supply. If the price changes, that's a change in the quantity supplied. Supply change, that's the whole curve moving. If the price changes, then quantity supplied will change.